this new power of mine. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words where we landed, we're 2 rows and next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportunity opportune time to show 'em this new power of mine. When words is where we landed, with 2 rows are next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words is where we landed, with 2 rows are next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show 'em this new power of mine. When words is where we landed, with 2 rows are next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words is where we landed, with 2 rows are next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show 'em this new power of mine. When words is where we landed, with 2 rows are next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words is where we landed, with 2 rows are next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show 'em this new power of mine. When words is where we landed, with 2 rows are next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words is where we landed, with 2 rows are next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show 'em this new power of mine. When words is where we landed, with 2 rows are next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. When words is where we landed, with 2 rows are next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie Hike, we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unplugged Unfiltered. I am Brian Clements alongside Bob Clements, and tonight we have a fun episode talking about how you don't need necessarily a million followers. You just need one bold move to make a splash and to get kind of started in the world of business as an entrepreneur, and whether that's as a TikTok streamer, as a actual, business owner. Not saying that TikTok's not an actual business, but you just need really one big move. You need one thing that makes you kind of stand out. And everyone thinks that success starts.
I've got a ton of.
You got an echo.
A ton of echo in mine.
Okay. Let's see.
So can you go back and listen to what you just recorded?
We are live, so I can't actually listen to it. Let's see. We're going to. I'm not sure why we have so much echo, but I hear it too. Let's try. Is that better? That's
worse.
That's worse. Check.
Still bad.
Check. There we go. Okay. We got rid of the echo. But so yeah, tonight we're really going to be talking about again, you don't need a million followers. You need one big move, bold move to really get started in any type of business, any type of entrepreneurial track. Whether that's a brick and mortar, whether that's an online store, whether that's TikTok, whether that's streaming on Twitch. You don't need a million followers to get started. And everyone thinks success starts with followers, clouts, or the perfect brand. But most wins I've ever seen started with one bold move. So I'm excited to kind of talk about it. It's going to be a fun episode. And for everyone who's on here, make sure that you do like, subscribe, follow all of our channels. We're currently live on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and LinkedIn. So if you're following from any of those, make sure that you hit us up with a comment. We'd love to hear from you. So Bob, good to have you back in the studio.
Hey, great to be back here.
Yeah, I know that this is probably not as exciting as lake life, but
it is not, but it's good.
It's good. Yeah. So luckily we've got some nice, hot, humid weather for us. But anyway, so we're going to talk about one big move, one bold move. And I'm excited to kind of dive into that.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back again. It's kind of the basics of life. Everything that you're going to do takes a step, and it's as an entrepreneur, especially if you've never done it before, it is a scary step you take.
Absolutely.
But the whole thing again is you can't take a journey if you don't take a first step.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the biggest thing that stops people going like, well, if I do that, then this happens.
Yeah.
Right. So, but if you don't take the step, then you just stay in the same place you are. You don't you don't ever get to go on the journey.
Yeah.
And the journey's not always a fun journey, but you got to take it. Like you say, and it takes some courage. It takes some courage to step out.
Absolutely.
It just takes some courage to do that.
Well, and I think we talked about it. It was either last week or 2 weeks ago that we really talked about, is you're going to either have 6 months from 6 months from now, you're going to have 6 months of excuses. Right. Or 6 months of progress, right? But to do that, you have to make this one bold move. So, I think that in the world that we're living in, like there's this obsession with going viral, with growing followers, with being seen, but that is a distraction from the real work that it takes, right? I can go get, 1 million followers. Hell, I can go buy 1 million followers on TikTok on this.
Exactly.
But does that actually gain me anything in the long run, right? It might at the very front, I might have a lot of views. I might have a lot of people who are going like, oh, this is awesome. This is awesome. But is that the target that I'm really going after? And a bold move can't be buying your followers. I mean, that's
no. Well, and again, you got to get out of the mindset. It's not volume.
Yes.
Right. I just need one person who hears me.
Yeah.
And maybe you have a lot of followers, and there's nothing wrong with having lots of followers. Yeah. I just need one person who hears me that says, damn, I'd like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because that's how all businesses started. You started landscaping with a yard that somebody was willing to pay you to mow.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then that turned into a neighbor who saw you mow a yard that says, hey, but you didn't have 100,000 people that were following you on TikTok watching
Yeah.
you mow a yard.
Absolutely.
You had one person and you started and you knocked on some doors in the neighborhood, and that's how you got the whole thing started.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like my business. I didn't start with anything. I worked for a couple of guys that were pretty big names in the industry I was in, but I still didn't start mine from scratch.
Yeah.
And all you're looking for is a person, just one person. And then if you do a great job, right?
Yeah.
And you do things right, then they start talking to you about other people, or they start sharing, hey, I did this, or I did this, or I had Bob do this, or Brian do this.
Yeah.
But it starts with one.
Absolutely.
And to get the one, you have to step forward and say, okay, this may be a crazy ass idea.
Yeah.
But I just have to have one crazy ass person that thinks it's cool.
100%.
Because for every crazy ass person, there's another 150,000 of them out there.
Yeah.
That are like that. I mean, that's the other piece. You're not going to get everybody.
Yeah.
There's no business out there that's going to get everybody. I mean, Google, as big as it is, not everybody uses Google as a search engine. Microsoft would tell you that that's the case.
Yeah.
But again, I wouldn't mind having all of Google's people that use the search engine, but I'm just saying it, nobody's ever going to get 100% of anything. That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
But it still all starts, like you say, you've got to take that first step. And from an entrepreneurial standpoint, that's the toughest step you're ever going to take.
Yeah.
Because you got a lot of stuff holding you back.
Absolutely.
When you got all these ropes and stuff that are attached.
Yeah.
Say, oh gosh, Brian, if you do that, well, what would happen if this happens?
Yeah.
What would happen if that happens? Well, if you don't do anything, then where you're at is where you're going to be at, right? You're never going to take that journey. So again, it is, and it's a bold step.
It is. Well, and I was actually, I'd seen something, I think Gary Vaynerchuk put it out, which most of the stuff that I see, Gary Vaynerchuk puts it out. But one of the things that he had posted was, and this is kind of that bold step, right? Is a salary creates slavery.
Exactly.
I get to a point where I'm comfortable with my salary. When that's a big, bold move. And that's something that will kind of, as we work through that, but that is stepping out of that, saying, okay, I know I have this comfort of, 40 hours a week. I'm going to get this salary. I'm going to it's comfortable. Right. And so stepping out of that can definitely be,
it's frightening.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, it really is. But again, I was talking to a person the other day and he says, well, how's your 401k doing? And I says, well, my business is my 401k.
Yeah.
I said, and it's doing well.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It hasn't always done well.
Yeah.
Right. But that was kind of my mindset is, I took everything that your mom and I did, and we reinvested back into business, back into business. And there were times where people would look at you and think, okay, well, that's really stupid because you don't have anything for the future. But I knew where I was going. I knew what I did, and even once you get going, you still have to take some bold steps sometimes to do it. But you got to start with that first step.
Absolutely. I mean, and the reality of it is social. So, and I'm going to say this with a little bit of a caveat, right? So, social proof is not leverage, but execution is. And I say that to an extent when it comes to, if you're a streamer, if you're on TikTok, social proof to a point is your proof of execution.
Right.
That is how you base, how your business is doing, is how many followers or how many video, and so there is a fine line of saying, like, followers, clout, that's not 100%, how I'm going to look at the statistics of my business. But if you are in TikTok, if you are a streamer on Twitch, if you're a streamer on YouTube, looking at your followers, those are your analytics, right? You're not physically selling a product. You're selling yourself, and you have to create a personal brand, and that it takes a leap of faith, because the people who do it really well are the people who go, you know what, I'm going to stop working my everyday job and I'm going to get a web camera and I'm going to start talking to people and playing video games. That's a bold move.
I would suck at that. Really.
Yeah.
I would not make money playing video games.
Yeah.
Unless it was Mario Kart or something like a Nintendo 64 series.
Oh, absolutely. But, and when we talk about this, I think of one really, really good example, and you'll hear me talk about Gary Vaynerchuk a lot. I respect Gary very much. What he does is always kind of on that cutting edge of, he pushes the limits. He's always taking a bold move. He's always making that big jump. But back in 2006, he really took a bold move and bold strategy, which I feel is what got him to where he's at. Not just because of this bold move, but because of his work ethic.
Right.
He was able to execute on things. And he's brilliant when it comes to building businesses and building a personal brand. But in 2006, he launched a daily YouTube show called Wine Library TV. Now, this was before anything. I mean, that was the podcast of
they were called vlogs.
They were vlogs. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of blog, it was a video log.
Yeah. And so he launched this, and he had absolutely no following. He had no production value. He had zero mainstream attention, but he was committed every day to showing up on camera, tasting wines, and making it inaccessible for the average consumer. Whereas before, how were you finding out about wines? How were you figuring out like, oh, this is a really good, and I don't know wine whatsoever, but this is a really good red wine that pairs well with this. Well, unless you're going to an Italian restaurant that tells you this pairs well with this. But he made it accessible, but it was his bold move. He stepped out of what he was doing and said, every single day I'm going to execute, and I'm going to show up and make this vlog, even though I don't have any followers. I mean, I think he said that his first video for the first 3 months had 15 views, and all 15 people of all of those 15 people were people he can name personally.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, 100%. But he continued to, he was stayed consistent with it, and he pushed through it. And the wine industry, that's such a tough industry, because it is, even now to this day, even though Gary's kind of come in and turned it on its head a little bit, he's added social aspects to it. It's still very, very controlled by gatekeepers and snobs and experts. His goal was to bypass that all. And that was his big move, right? Is he was going to go, I'm going to go direct to customers. I'm going to have a real talk. And if you've ever heard Gary Vaynerchuk talk, or Gary V talk, he is very, very real talk.
Passionate.
No bullshit.
Yeah. He's a passionate guy.
He everything that he does, he loves, right? Yep. And he's not going to do something or build a business that he doesn't enjoy doing. Everything that he does with love. But he also, again, didn't wait for the following to create that consistency. Right. Yes, I had 15 views on my first video, but it took me a month to get that. He probably had 1 view, because let's be honest, back in 2006, what was YouTube? YouTube was unknown. I mean, I can't imagine.
Well, back then, most people had a dial-up modem, so you couldn't push a lot of content through.
Yeah.
We didn't have fiber that we were running like
absolutely
a gigabyte a second.
Yeah.
So I mean, but but again, it was the thing. I think that he knew there was a need.
Yeah.
He was an expert in the field.
Absolutely.
Obviously. And like you say, how do you find out about a wine if you go to a restaurant? Many times the wine that they're trying to sell you is the one that they ordered too much of, that they need to move. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
And you go like, is it great? And he goes, oh, it's the best.
It's the best. It
you
pairs
should buy a bottle and take one home with you too.
Absolutely.
Right? So it pairs with everything.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
What color is it? It's a red, but it's gret with fish.
Yes.
Well, most reds aren't. This one would be.
This one is the best.
So again, but that's kind of the thing again. And I would venture to say that Gary has learned a lot about doing podcasts from where he started.
Absolutely.
You and I watched it. You and I watched a few of his early ones.
100%. Yeah.
And so you watch him there, but again, he's learned, he's grown. But the other piece again, Brian, to your point, is he's passionate.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just passionate. And you watch his podcast, even watch the first ones. He's just passionate about what he's doing there. And passionate is somebody being passionate is contagious.
Absolutely.
Then it gets other people going too.
Well, and again, it's he was passionate about what he was doing. He was very authentic in what he presented. Is this is me, this is who I am. But the consistency over and over and over. And one of the things that we've talked about with this podcast is, most podcasts don't ever make it to 10 episodes, right? 95%.
Are we, this is our 9th?
This is our 9th. We're so close. We have to fake it until we make it till next week.
We're definitely going to do one more, because I'm not a quitter.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But 95% of podcasts never make it past the 10th episode. but Gary is now done over 1,000 episodes.
Yeah.
And that's the consistency. He's grown other businesses. He's worth a crazy amount of money, but he stays consistent for, the audience that he's built. Like he's built such a group, such a following, and he's done the exact same thing with VFriends, right?
Yeah.
It's VFriends trading cards. Like most people have no idea, had no idea what this was. Now it's blown up and I see it everywhere. I mean, it's sold out in minutes. And these cards are going for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars already. But he built this community because of the consistency, because of his authenticity to what he's created, right? It's like, this is me. He still shows up at these little card shops and signs cards and talks to all of these people. And it's pretty incredible to what he's done. But through all of that, being consistent, creating a value for a customer, and being authentic, he took his family's wine business from doing $3 million a year to now they're doing $60 million a year. And I will tell you that the wine industry is substantially down.
Right.
So to be at that point, they're buying it. Why? Because of Wine Library TV and because of the consistency and because people, they follow Gary V where Gary V goes.
Well, he's a brand.
He is.
I mean, it's not the wine anymore.
Yeah.
Gary's the brand.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And Gary has a huge following because, if you've listened to any of Gary's programs or bought any of his books, he's got some phenomenal books, but Gary's just, like you said, he's authentic, and it just, if you listen to him, anything that you do, he's consistent all the way through. He's built a great brand for himself.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it put him on the map. I mean, and that kind of was that starting point where, once he built that brand, he started to build those followers. He did that one big move. It opened up the ability for him to do things like VaynerMedia, to do speaking gigs, to be kind of on the cutting edge of what technology is going to do, what social media is going to look like. I mean, he'll say something, oh, in 2030, this is going to happen. And I'm not sure if he has a time machine or something, but 9 times out of 10, what Gary Vee says is what actually happens. But people listen to him because he has built that, but he built it from one massive move. He said, I'm done with being a slave to my salary. I want to create something for myself. I want to build not just followers. I want to build a community around me. And well, he's done
well,
very well for himself. So, but anyways, so that's kind of that one, example. And I could talk about, I mean, you talk about Cass and Mike, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing. They've done incredibly well for, they had to take that one big move, right? And selling golf.com was a big jump for them. And then when things kind of fell through, going right back into it and saying, okay, we're going to sink everything we have into this. Hey, employees, here's our transparency. We can't pay you,
but we'd love to have you.
But we'd love to have you. But that was a bold move that turned into a pivot that turned into another bold move, because they could have said, okay, we're going to cut our losses. We don't want to deal with the repercussions that could possibly come from this. But they said, no, we're authentic. We're telling people who we are. We're going to be transparent with them. And then they built it up, resold it for even more money. And then they did the exact same thing with Buddy Media. I mean, especially as an entrepreneur, your bold moves are never just one bold move. I mean, it's a bold move per, project that you're working on.
But again, using Cass and Mike as an example, there's not many people that they sold a company and then they had to get it back.
Yeah.
They didn't have any money to make payroll, but the employees there knew them, trusted them. They knew their character. They knew who they were. And they say, it doesn't matter. We'll figure it out. Let's go get it.
Yeah.
And that's that kind of, that's just kind of what they bring to the table.
Absolutely.
And that's a part of it. I mean, to you, and we've talked about a lot, you just got to be authentic. Who are you? Be who you are. Don't try to be somebody that you're not, because everybody can, smell a fake 1,000 miles away.
Absolutely.
I think, again, that's why, to me, TikTok works so well.
Yeah.
because you immediately know if this person's a phony or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if they're doing it much,
Yeah.
you just kind of know. And
Yeah.
and people don't want the phony part of it. They just be you. Don't try to be somebody different. I mean, that's the mistake that I see a lot of people make. I'm going to try to be like Mark Cuban, or I'm going to try to be like, pick somebody.
Yeah.
You can't. You're not going to be like them.
Yeah.
You don't think like them. You don't act like them. You don't have the kind of upbringing that they have. You are who you are.
Yeah.
Right. And so you've got to build, like what Gary did. You got to build the brand. I always tell people, again, when I'm training salespeople, people buy people, not products and services.
Absolutely.
So the first thing you always have to sell in sales is you have to sell yourself.
Yeah.
And again, as a salesperson, you just need one sale. I always tell all the salespeople that are brand new in sales, it's kind of like you said, I just need one.
Yeah.
Because if you do a good job and you say, hey, guys, Brian, really appreciate you being a customer.
Yeah.
You were my first one.
Yeah.
Do you know anybody else like yourself who might be interested in what we do? And if people like you and you're not afraid to ask.
Yeah.
Because that's the other piece.
Yeah.
You have to have the courage to ask for people's help.
Mhm.
But if you've done them right, they like you, they trust you. People say, yeah, I got a buddy of mine, or I got a friend of mine, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you do the same thing to them. Now you've got 2. The next thing you know, you got 4, then you got 16, right? Then you got 32. And that's just how the whole thing works.
Yeah.
Right. But again, you got to be who you are. And you got to be, again, to your point in the very beginning, you got to be courageous enough to take the step.
Oh, absolutely.
Do the big, bold move.
Well, I mean, and that goes back again to Gary and even like with our podcast or anyone who's done a podcast, I see Dev Mentor Dave, which if you guys go check out his videos. He's live with us on YouTube. He's the lead developer for the product that I'm working on. Such an incredible person. He also does videos and helps developers walk through learning development. He'll set up a project and have all of his group, his community, help him build the project out, and then he works with them. So if you guys are on YouTube, if you're not on YouTube, go over to YouTube, check out Dev Mentor Dave, especially if you're a developer, super incredible guy, and just crazy knowledgeable. I mean, he's the one who is building the landscape of our software.
Can he teach me how to take my Roomba and make it a killer robot?
I don't know. Dave, can you make a Roomba a killer robot?
I need it to be more aggressive.
He needs it to be the dust is fighting back. But anyways, so but even like I was saying, even Dave or Gary or us or Mike and Cass, I mean, in Mike and Cass, they made a massive bold move with writing this new book, right? It's something completely different than what they've ever done. But 3 or 4 minutes before we got onto this, they just got notified that they're number 5 on the New York Times bestsellers list. And that's
awesome.
That's pretty big.
That is
achievement. So, but what you have to do, and like what Gary did, what we're doing is, we needed a camera, right? We needed a point of view, which we have a different point of view, I think, than some people. And then we had to have the balls to press record. Like we had to say, okay, let's do it. And we've changed so many times, right? Like our bold move was saying, like, let's do the first one. It was basic, to say
basic would be a really good word to use for it. It was, I would say crude.
It was,
but we've gained.
Yes, and then now we're here. We have a soundboard, we have lights, we have cameras, we have TVs, we have all of these different things that have come from it. But it didn't come because we were like, we'll do it next month. We'll do that. So, as we're talking about this, and I think that what people, might be interested in is say like, okay, well, I want to do that, but what is a bold move to you? And so, Bob, I mean, for you, what would be 1 or 2 things that qualifies as a bold move? Also, Dave did respond and he said, I'll ask my 15-year-old. Okay. So we might have
that's great.
Dust killing
I want something
Roomba.
Aggressive.
Very aggressive.
I want aggressive, a Roomba.
Yeah.
Is what I want.
I just need AI built into it too. So
yeah, absolutely. It just should know what I need to do. Yeah. And if an intruder comes in the house, I expect it to wake up and attack.
And play Welcome to the Jungle.
Exactly. So
awesome. So anyways, one bold move greater than 1,000 likes, but what qualifies as that one bold move? Like what are a couple of things when you see someone, when you're working with a dealership, with you're working with a business, and you say, okay, damn, that was a bold move. What are a couple things that you would say would be a bold move?
Quitting your job would be a bold move.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd say so. I don't know that that's where I would start at.
Yeah.
Depends upon what you're trying to do. I mean, I worked for another consulting company 40 plus years ago before I did it, and I was paid pretty well to do it. But I decided, again, to your point, I wanted to do my own thing. I had ideas on other ways we could do it that I wasn't allowed to do because of the guy that owned the company. And he was a smart guy.
Yeah.
But I just, in my mind, I thought, well, okay, there's a better way to do it. I was kind of in the middle of the consulting and the sales training and stuff like this, doing it mornings. I'd have morning sessions, I'd have evening sessions, and I just felt like there's a piece that was missing.
Yeah.
All the training that we were doing back there were for young, brand new salespeople.
Okay.
Like it wasn't Dale Carnegie sales training, but it was similar to that. There was a company called Wilson Learning and different companies, but it was all built for new salespeople.
Yeah.
I felt like, because I was an experienced salesperson, that there was no training for experienced salespeople to take them from college to pros.
Yeah.
And as I talked to the company I work for, they go, well, there's a lot more new salespeople. And I go, well, actually, there's a lot of experienced salespeople out there. And so that's how I decided to start off. I started out as a sales training company, and I had an opportunity again to do some work with Tony Robbins, who was into neuro-linguistic programming and looking at how language affects the neural system in the mind. And so I started incorporating a lot of NLP into my sales training, teaching people how to do anchoring and things like this. And experienced salespeople were tired of every training they went to the same thing that they did 30 years ago. And all my stuff was kind of like, oh, I never thought about that. How to watch somebody's eyes, tell if they're lying or telling the truth, or if the eyebrows are up, the mind is open, eyebrows down, mind's closed, and teaching those things like this. And I didn't have much of a following in the beginning, but I finally built it to the same thing. Yeah. But I had to leave a pretty good job, took the safety net out and said, okay, I got enough confidence that I think I can make this happen. So that to me is a big one. Yeah. Again, I didn't really have an audience yet. I didn't have a consumer for the product. Yeah. I just felt like it was a smart move, and it ended up being a great move for me doing that.
Would you say you had a big safety net built up behind that?
I had nothing. I was a sales guy.
Yeah. Okay.
So I knew as a sales guy that I could always fall back and I could go back into sales. Yeah. Okay. So if the company didn't work, I could find any number of companies that would love to have me as a salesperson. So I that gave me the confidence to know that, I mean, when I did the company, you're kind of as a salesperson anyway, but I knew if it didn't work out, I could go back to any company and say, hey, hire me as a salesperson. It will never be a bad decision for you. So what I knew what I could do. Still scary. I mean, you guys were all babies at that time, and Sandy and I had not been married very long, so it was a pretty big step. But best decision I ever made in my life. Yeah, hasn't always been a great decision, but it ended up being a great decision. So anyway, but I think that's a piece of it. You got to have enough confidence in yourself, and again, that's one of the things I think you'll find with all entrepreneurs. None of them lack confidence. Yeah. Gary doesn't lack confidence. Yeah. Cass and Mike don't lack confidence. Seth doesn't lack confidence.
Absolutely.
Anthony, I mean, you think of the people that you've had on here. Yeah. They all have confidence, and they're confident in their ability and not overconfident. I think Cass had mentioned in the very first podcast we do, their egos are not in the way. My ego was never in the way. I just knew that if it didn't work, I could go back and sell and make a ton of money, which I was doing before that. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's, not a financial safety net, but you had a skill safety net.
Absolutely.
That, as you said, okay, if worse comes to worse, I can fall back on this and I can always find the same job, that I was doing. But every entrepreneur definitely has confidence, but you also have fear of,
oh, sure.
I mean, because you go, well, yeah, but I think for me, that fear drives me, right? That fear of like, okay, I'm betting, as we talked about in one of our previous episodes, I'm betting 100% on myself.
Right.
No one else is betting on me.
Right.
Until I start hiring employees, and then they're betting on me, whether they know they're betting on me or
they
not.
may not be aware that they're part of the bet.
Yeah. But they're now part of the bet
Yeah.
because their jobs and their livelihoods
Exactly.
rely on it, you know. But that for me is a driving factor. Says, listen, I'm not just doing this for myself. I'm now got additional families that are betting on that. So quitting your job, no safety net, kind of, you know, or maybe a skill safety net. What would be another, you know, bold move that you would say, let's say, I know for me, kind of when I was building this new software company,
Mhm.
like I was not publicly taking a position on it, right? I
Right.
was trying to stay kind of hidden in the
Right.
background.
Right.
I didn't really want people to know it was me building this, but there came a point where it's like, okay, it kind of got leaked, right? There was rumors that I was building this software.
Somebody who had, by the way, an NDA.
Yeah. Someone
that it should have never leaked from.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had
I
someone.
sign NDAs all the time, and I believe that NDAs are there for a reason.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
anyway, but
But-
that was unfortunate. But
Yeah, it was unfortunate, but I will say because of that, I could either do one of two things, right? Is I could still stay behind the limelight, or B, I could build my
Exactly.
personal brand so that people, when they're buying the software, they're not buying the software, they're buying me, right? And there's a lot of the businesses that we're going to be selling the software to who know me. They know me really well. They've built a good relationship with me. I have a really good relationship with them. And so I decided, okay, screw it. I'm going to throw myself into the limelight, so to speak.
Right.
Not a massive limelight. Yeah, it's no Gary V limelight,
No,
but
that's all right.
I'm going to throw myself into the limelight. I completely got rid of everything on my Instagram, started it fresh, started a brand new LinkedIn, started new Facebook, started new thing, and say, I'm going to build up my personal brand to back my software company.
Right.
That was scary as shit. You know,
Mhm.
going like because it really felt like I was starting over
Well,
from scratch, you know, and I was forced somewhat to do it, but I could have, it was that fight or flight. And I said, no, what, we're going to fight this. We're going to use this. And even Dave, I mean, when I got the call that I had kind of been, when the NDA had gotten broken,
Yeah.
I was actually in a room with Dave up in Omaha, Nebraska. And I said, well, one of two things is going to happen here is either A, we're going to get a lot of shit thrown at us, or B, we're going to jump in front of this. And Dave and I talked to you,
Right,
and you
right.
guys were all, hey, you know what, get in front of this.
Right.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
And it was a scary, but it was a bold move, and it has worked out incredibly well for us so far. So anything else? I mean, if you think of anything, and I've got another one too, then I can throw that in there, but anything else that you can think of that's.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it, like you say, you just got to put yourself out there. You may not, you may have people that don't believe in your product.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure Gary had a lot of people that going, okay, so you're going to do what?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, well, why, how would that work? If people can't taste it themselves, if people can't do
Mhm.
that, Gary, I'm sure Gary's attitude is, well, I can taste it for them. Right. I'm
Oh,
going to
absolutely.
be honest with them or whatever like this.
Yeah.
And he kind of built that. So, and it's a little bit like we talked about with Cass and Mike, you're just going to have a lot of naysayers.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just a part of it.
Yeah.
I've had a lot as I've tried different things. And you have had the same thing
Yeah.
as you're doing this. I mean, there's a lot of people going like, okay, well, how are you going to do this?
Yeah.
What do you know about software? The fact that you probably know most software out there in the business that you and I play in better
Yeah.
than the people that actually built the software.
Yeah.
So you knew it, you understood it, you knew all the weaknesses with it. So,
Yeah.
but a lot of people are going like, well, you can't do that, or you can't build a software. Well, if you got people like Dave,
Yeah. Yeah.
if I surround myself,
Hold my
with-
beer, watch
Yeah,
this.
exactly. If I surround myself that can take my Roomba and make it a killer Roomba, I've got a team, right?
Oh,
and that's the
100%.
thing. And that's what you did. You went out and searched out, say, look, who's the best of the best
Yeah.
for AI development, for
Yeah.
software. And then they knew nothing about the industry,
Absolutely.
but you knew the industry.
Yeah.
and you knew all the weaknesses that they had, because you and I have dealt with them for 20 years. Yes. Going like, why don't you make your software do this shit?
Yeah.
Well, you don't understand. It's kind of complicated. Well, it's because your programmers suck.
Yeah.
Is what it is. Your developers suck.
And it's still based on Windows 95.
Yeah. Or DOS. We have one out there that's used is still running DOS. And they say, well, we can't fix it because our platform won't allow us to fix it. So anyway, I don't want to knock the software that's out there. All I'm saying again is there's a lot of people out there that were naysayers and still are. I mean, so you don't get it, you don't understand it, but you just got to put up with that stuff and say, oh, okay, that's fine. I'm going to prove you wrong, and 100%. You will with what you're doing with this stuff. But I think that's the other piece, is just let people know that, you're come up with the idea, share it with some people.
Yeah.
Know you're going to get some pushback, especially if you decide to remove the safety net.
Yes.
But the other piece again too is every person that's listening to this has a skill set to do something.
Yeah.
I tell people, if I could sell, I could be a waiter. Okay. I mean, you think about sales, you think about, well, this or this or this. Once you understand how to sell, I can sell anything. I can sell a tangible or an intangible. Tangible being something I can touch, like someone, an intangible, something like insurance or, something along those lines. Sales is sales. So everybody has a skill set.
Yeah.
Okay. And you always have the ability to go back and do that. And it doesn't mean that you may not have to go back and do it for a bit and then kind of regroup, and then, but then go back out and try something different again.
Absolutely.
When you got the entrepreneurial bug, it ain't going to go away. Okay.
Well,
it's not like there's a medicine or a shot you can take to get rid of it. It's in your soul. You can't get rid of it.
Yes.
It owns you. And so just, you just got to keep going after it.
And I think the thing that what I would encourage and what I do encourage entrepreneurs is, yes, you have a skill set of selling, right? You lean on that in your entrepreneurial journey, but what you're doing is you're going to college to be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
In the real world. It's not physically sitting in front of professors, but you have to constantly be willing to learn every single day. And if you fail, you failed the class. That's fine. Go back and retake the bitch, and
exactly.
And so I'm going to go back and retake it, but I've learned so many lessons that, and we talked about this with Mike and Cass. If everything went awry, you could start another business and do it. Why? Because you know how to do it.
I get
you
it.
took the classes, and those were the classes of Hard Knock, but you took those. For me, someone who has, built a business, and I've done, well in business, and I've taught a lot of businesses, a lot of things. One of the big things that I struggled with was, how do I take something and turn it into this massive company, right? There's so many hiccups and headaches and things that I haven't even thought about when it comes to the company, the size of what we're building.
Right.
And I didn't know what to do, but one of my bold moves was I wanted to message my potential mentors. I messaged the shit out of Gary Vee. He never responded at first.
Well, he does have a restraining order on you now.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. Does that count? That is a response.
Yeah. Yes. But I messaged my mentors. I went to investors. I talked to people, and I had no credibility behind this. I mean, and Cass and Mike, I would say Cass and Mike, it started off like I was, following Gary, trying to see what Gary was doing. He sent out a live saying, hey, I'm doing this live. It's a book launch. I'm like, awesome. Don't read books, but let's go see if we can chat to Gary live. Right. And then I started watching this, and it was like a 3-hour live, and I ended up watching the whole thing. And that's how I met Cass and Mike, because it was their book launch. And now I would say I have created some truly incredible friends, but it all started with a DM, with a follow. I mean, we have some potential massive guests on here. Why? Because I sent out DMs just to, hey, Ryan Reynolds. Hey, The Rock. Hey, Kevin Hart. Hey, Larry the Cable Guy. Like,
he's the one I want.
100%. Yeah, he would be.
He's like the funniest man in the world.
He would be so fun to have on here. But I took that bold move, and I spent a week sending out 100 DMs per day to different people. And I did that for 5 days. So I sent out 500 DMs to different people saying, Hey, we would love to have you on the show. Hey, we would love to have you as a sponsor of the show. Hey, I would love to talk to you about my software company. Hey, I would love to talk to you about investments. Like, and was it scary? Because you're like, okay, well, they're going to, just instantly respond and go, no, you like, who are you?
Mhm.
Don't ever message us again, kind of a thing, or just not get a response at all.
Right.
But I will say I got more responses than I ever thought
Yeah.
I was going to get from it, which was just incredibly well. But that, again, when we're looking at one bold move, that can be your bold move.
Sure.
Is you don't even have to actually, jump away from quitting your job, right? You don't have to jump into launching a product with
Right.
no audience. Is just say, hey, let me reach out. That might be your first bold move. Is I'm going to reach out to people who have done something similar, and I'm going to start getting their advice from that.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to start going to the school of hard knocks entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And so a lot of things. And then I think the very last big bold move that you can make is just bet on yourself. We talked about this. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch the episode Betting on Yourself in 2025. An incredible episode. I think 2 of the best hosts that you'll ever see on an episode.
Well, at least one.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. And it's not the one in the book.
And I'm not going to say which one it is.
Yeah. So no, but if you haven't watched that, go back and watch the Betting on Yourself in 2025, because that's really where even without any of these bold moves, you have to bet on yourself
Right.
to take that step to do
Absolutely.
that bold move. So, again, as you do that bold move, own that and then own what you unlock with it, right? Don't expect it. I'm going to gain 1 million followers because I did my one bold move. You're not going to gain your 1 million followers. If you do, that's awesome. Congratulations. That's great. Ride that train, but understand that you might have to pivot at some point. But you've got to move with that, and you got to move without hesitation, because hesitation costs you momentum. And so take your bold move, take the momentum that you're gaining. Don't hesitate. And that means don't hesitate moving forward. Don't hesitate pivoting. Get your ego out of the way. Understand that what you're doing might not be the best direction. I'm going to have to change. I'm going to pivot, but keep that momentum going. Even if you're going backwards, you're learning something.
Well, and you always go backwards. I think, in one of my workshops that I do, I always challenge people again that you have to change. You can't, you come into the workshop, one of my workshops, and most of my workshops are day-long workshops. So they're, 6 hours long.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, I tell people, you come in here to learn something. I don't know specifically what it is, but at the end of the day, in 6 hours, you need to be thinking about, I've invested 6 hours of my time here. But I always end the workshop up with basically saying, hey, look, I want everybody to stand up and take a pen and put it in your hand. And I said, now I want you to throw the pen forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But without moving anything backwards. You can't make any backward movement at all. So I want you to throw the pen forward. You can't do it.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't, the pen won't leave your hand.
Yeah.
I say, now throw the pin forward the way you would. And then they all put their arm back and then they throw it forward.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, the only way that pin could ever move forward is sometimes you have to take a step back.
Absolutely.
Right. You have to move back a little bit. And it's not a negative. It's not that you failed.
Yeah.
If you want to make the stupid pin go forward, just physically, you have to take a step back. And I think a lot of times people say, well, I don't want to go backwards. Well, then you're not going to go forward.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to take a step back from where I'm at. Then you're not going to move forward. You have to be willing to back up, because that's how it works.
Absolutely.
And then throw it forward. And if you want to throw it forward farther than you did, you have to go back farther than you
absolutely.
And it's just kind of the mentality of it. I think everybody thinks, well, I can just move forward. You can't move forward without first going backward.
Yeah.
It's just the way life
is.
is.
Well, and as you're moving backwards, I think that gives you the opportunity to identify what your bold move's going to be. And one of those things is, say, what is that one thing that you've been thinking about, as you're moving backwards, you're saying, okay, I'm preparing myself for this. What is that one thing that you've been thinking about, but you have not executed? So this is kind of our talking to you viewers as we're wrapping this up. I want you guys to think about this as we go into next week's episode. Is what is one thing that you've been thinking about, but you haven't executed? If you didn't care about judgment, what would you try? If you didn't care what people thought, what would you try? And then legally, yes, legally. We've all seen Breaking Bad. Works out really well, but it also doesn't work out.
At the end, it does not work out.
Yes. So, and And then also start to change your mindset. It's not the what if it fails, because that's what people always think is like, okay, well, what if it fails? What if it fails? Well, fuck, what if it works?
Yeah.
What if it
Right,
works?
right.
So I challenge you to say, what is the one thing you've wanted to do, but you haven't tried? If you could do something without any judgment, what would it be? And then change that. What if it doesn't work to what if it works? Change that mindset and then it's going to start creating some clarity for you to move fails into lessons, to move, 100 hours of research into actionable, actions.
Right.
And so focus as we move into this next week is saying, what is one thing that you've been thinking about, haven't executed? If you didn't care about judgment, what would you try? Change your mentality. Let's change that mindset and say, instead of, well, what if it fails or what if it doesn't work, to what if it works? What if it succeeds? And then create clear actions on that path. And so I'm going to challenge everybody on this to start thinking in that manner. And so I want everyone to come in and drop a direct, message us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch. Message us at what is your one bold move. And if you've got a vision, I would love for everyone to start creating a vision board. It's saying, okay, here's what my one bold move is. Here's what, if I didn't have any judgment, here's what I would move towards. And then drop it in a message. Also put it on your profile and say #one bold move. So that way we can start following that and saying, how can we come alongside of you and support you for your one bold move? Because we would love to do that. And anybody who uses that one bold move hashtag, what we're going to do is we're going to create a highlight reel of everyone who's used that, everyone who's going to say, listen, I'm changing my mindset. I don't care about the judgment. I'm going to create my one bold move. We're going to create a highlight reel for all of the additional listeners, for all of our followers to say, listen, these people, they decided to jump. They're jumping. They did their one bold move, and we're going to cheer you on. We're going to be your biggest cheerleaders that you can find. So, again, I'm so excited for this. I appreciate everybody coming on here. We're going to kind of wrap it up, but as we're closing out, I want everyone to think, one move can change everything. You just have to make it before you're ready. You're never going to be ready for that one move. Right. Whether you're Cass and Mike, whether you're Gary V, whether you're Anthony, whether you're Seth, whether you're you, or whether you're me. I sounded kind of like a Dr. Seuss book.
A little bit.
But with
do you like my hat?
Yes.
No, I do not like your hat.
But with all of that being said, is you have to be ready to make that move before you're ready to make it. Everyone that I just named, Mike, Cass, Gary, Seth, Anthony, me and you, we've all made that move going, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready to step, but you go, screw it. We're going to do it. I believe in myself. I'm betting on myself and it's going to succeed. So make that change, make that move, change that mindset. And we're going to be here cheering you on. So
absolutely.
With that, I appreciate everyone. We're going to go ahead and call it for the night. It has been a long couple days for both Bob and I. So we appreciate everyone on here. We appreciate all of you. Make sure that you shoot us a message, follow us on all of our social medias, and then make a post, drop that #one bold move. And then we would love to support every single viewer that we have. So
I'm just going to just one more time.
Yeah.
You said Mike and Cass and Mike's books, number 5 on New York Times. Let's get it to number 1.
Yeah, that would be incredible.
Okay. So yeah, I just challenged the group here. Yeah. So let's go show them what we can do. So if it's at 5, let's get it to 1.
Yeah. And everyone who's on here, if you haven't got it, definitely go get Shoveling Shit by Cass and Mike Lazaro. If you're an entrepreneur, if you have any entrepreneurial bone in your body, this is a book that you must have. I'm going to look at the camera for this one, but this is a book that you have to get. It will give you 50 cheat codes to entrepreneurial lifestyle. It is going to tell you about the bold move. It is going to teach you how to jump. It's going to teach you how to structure business. It is something that you cannot afford to miss. And for the price, you gain hundreds, if not thousands of dollars worth of knowledge. And again, I will also tell all of our viewers, if you cannot afford the book, message us and we will make sure that you can get the book.
Absolutely.
Or if you know someone who cannot afford the book, message us. We will get you a copy, because I believe in what Mike and Cass are doing. I know Bob believes in what they're doing. Mike and Cass believe in every single entrepreneur that's out here, just like Bob and I do. And so we want to be able to support that. We want to support them. We also want to support Anthony Masucci. If you guys are looking for a good summer read, or if you know any teachers who are looking for a good summer read, go get Grade School by Anthony Masucci as well. A great read, incredible story. Honestly, what shaped him to make the bold moves that he had, that he's made is those grade school experiences. So if you go, okay, I don't know if I've had those experiences, I don't know if I'm truly an entrepreneur, go get Grade School.
Yeah.
Read that. Read how your past and your interactions push you to who you are today. Anthony, incredible entrepreneur, incredible journalist, incredible author. But he's that because of those teachers that he had in grade school. So get Grade School, go get Shoveling Shit. And let's push Mike and Cass to #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. And let's do it this week.
Awesome.
So with that, we are going to go ahead and unplug. We appreciate every single one of you. As every week, you guys are incredible. You show up in force. And if there's anything that we can ever do, send us a message. You can send us a message on any of our social media. You can also go to our website, www.unpluggedunfiltered.com. Or if you want to shoot us an email, info@unpluggedunfiltered.com. It's a direct line to us as well. And we will make sure that all of your questions get answered. But with that, we are unplugging. We are calling it a night. Bob, thanks again. And It's good to have you back in the studio.
It's been fun.
We will catch you guys all next week for another episode of Unplugged Unfiltered. Take care.
Never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words is where we landed, with 0 is the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon